The next speaker, Esti kind of stole my thunder before with her statement, because I was going to make jokes about how this is the first in the history of Cyber Week that we have a speaker that is wearing a skirt. He calls it a kilt, I call it a skirt. Who has a blue beard. And then Esti stole my thunder. So, but really, despite all of the external appearance features, we're talking about a person who was able to hack pretty much anything that has wheels, tracks, wings, I don't know what else, I don't know what I'm even allowed to say. And now that he's finished playing with all of our forms of transportation, I think he wants to take away all of our food too. So he started well by bringing us a bottle of whiskey, and I'm eager to see what he has next for us. So please welcome on stage Chris Roberts. Cheers.
Hang on, let me see if there's a clicker floating around here somewhere. Oh, no, that's definitely not the first slide. That's not today's topic. All right, where do we start? Okay. So, to follow on from some of these other conversations we've had, a couple of things. One, we've got 60-odd slides to go through in 15 to 20 minutes. So, hold tight. Secondly, to Matan's and some of the other conversations, we stood up in Las Vegas about 5 or 6 years ago, and we might have infiltrated Audi, Mercedes, and Chevrolet at the time, and we started stacking them up on the strip of Las Vegas. By hacking the Bluetooth sensors as they drove down, we'd get into the system, mess with the Distronic stuff, and then turn the engine off. So to the point that these guys are making, there is a lot that needs to happen. I will say before I get started, thank you a huge amount to the ICRC and TIU to get me here. For those of you that don't know, I was trying to board an airplane on Saturday morning, and apparently one of the airplane manufacturers still doesn't like me very much, so I wasn't able to get on the airplane Saturday morning. So TIU and the guys just pulled out all the stops, so thank you a huge amount, and I'm honored to be here. Right, on with the show. This is typically the opening slide for a couple of reasons. One, because in the US, normally there's an FBI agent or two in the audience that wants to know what I'm going to talk about. And we always talk about unicorns and bunnies. Because anybody that has arrest warrant capabilities over there, I kind of want them out of the room, because this isn't a civilized talk that we're going to be doing. All right, the overall statement. Let's start with the easy one on this one. The camera's going to hate me because I'm walking backwards and forwards. The beauty of humans, we have the equal capacity to evolve. It's a really, really nice statement. And as we talk about evolution of security and evolution of the technology, it's a wonderful one to think about. But unfortunately, why are these auto-advancing? Go away. All right, that might be my fault. But as a problem is with this one, we don't necessarily evolve. Because this is what we end up with. We have to have signs that say, don't molest the crocodile. We have signs that say, don't tweet about the fire before we exit the building. As humans, we have a problem when we have to turn around and say, don't mess with the wrong end of a chainsaw. I think my slides are set to auto. I don't know if anybody in the upstairs can do anything about it. We'll have to figure that one out. I apologize, they're going to auto front. I'll have to go backwards. So the challenge on this one is, what do we do about it? So the Civilized Abstract was basically, we turned around and said, okay, how can we focus elsewhere? What can we do to make everybody think about things? We took a step back, as Matan was kind to point out with, we messed around with a lot of different things in the automotive industry. We decided to go and mess around with other things. The reason we decided to do that is because the message wasn't getting through. We would stand here, and we have done for many years in front of audiences saying, hey, there are issues with security, and everybody's like, oh yes, definitely issues with security, and then everybody keeps on going on with their same life. So I'll apologize now. I'm going to have to keep clicking the back button on this thing. So the challenge was, what do we actually have to do to make everybody wake up, and what message can we give on this one? As has been pointed out, It's probably, hang on a sec, the guy's up front. Yeah, you're gonna have to hold on. There's an auto feature on there. If you guys can turn it off, for some reason it's auto changing every 15 seconds. Anyway, we'll carry on. Today's focus is not gonna be talking about aviation stuff. Today's focus really is gonna be talking about a few other things. I can see the slides, you can't. So I'll apologize. Woohoo! All right. There we go. That's not today's focus. Oh God, now I've lost it here. All right. Today's focus, we're going to have a look at the elephant in the room. I'll put one slide up there about the aviation stuff. We'll talk about squirrels, milk robots, and various other things. So let me say one thing out in public. If you read the statement in the background on me, it said we made planes go sideways. Physics says that's not possible, and so do I. We did do 4 or 5 years worth of research, and we're going to talk about why research is important. And why when as researchers want to reach out to companies, yep, still squirrel moments, why researchers want to actually do a lot of this stuff, and what we have to do as organizations when the researcher comes out and says there's a problem with it. And as has been pointed out a number of times, my ability to send tweets from airplanes should be severely modified. All right, so squirrel moments. This is a well-used slide, and I like it a lot. One, because there's 4 billion people in theory are going to be connected by 2020. So all the discussions we have about the Internet of Things is rather scary, because there's going to be a lot of people on these systems. Stay, no walkies. 25 million apps. And we know very well from history that 24.9 million of the damn things are not going to be coded correctly, and security will be an afterthought. That's a huge issue. And the Internet of shiny things, as we like to put it as well. The challenge on this one is it only reaches a certain focus. So we decided to look elsewhere on this one. We turned around and said, 2020, 4 billion connected people. If we take the standard bell curve, we have the geeks, we have the sheeple, and then we have the people on LinkedIn who think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a good password. Those people need to be tasered. Stay, no walkies. So if you take the USA statistic, 4.4% of people, and at that point in time, as we can see on here, about 26 million enlightened bodies, which is about 8% of the population. So when you are talking about computer security, when you are talking to audiences, at best, the chances are you're only reaching 8% of that population. So the problem is, that's how we feel. Because the other 92% we haven't touched, so how do we get to them? Here's how we get to the other 92% of people. Global statistics, billions of tons of corn, gallons of ethanol, 1.5 billion cows. For all of you that come from the technology arena that used to do war driving and all this kind of good stuff, stay, no walkies. Cows come with RFID tags now. You can war drive cows. I'd do a dance, but it's Scottish. It isn't going to be pretty. We'll hold for a sec. Hold on a second. We'll talk to the guys. Say again? Somebody's going to shoot me after this one. Did you change the auto thing on it? It's like a global stat. And my bad. I can get yelled at for this one. All right. The list goes on. So the whole concept here is not to focus on the Internet of Things. It's how do we look at actually modifying some of the basic elements that the other 92% are working on. So, puts a whole new meaning on got milk. We focused on it, and we focused on the food industry, because if you look at the 8%, if you look at us, we care about technology. We care about security, but it's arguable that the other 92% don't care about that. It's staying there. Thank you, guys. So we decided to research some of that stuff to see what we could actually do. So, we hacked milk. I'm going to pick on England. For those of you that are aware, Scotland tried to get independence, and we failed because there are too many English people in Scotland. So we decided to go after them. We decided to go after basically milking machines. This was one of those squirrel moments. We went after milking machines. We did a whole bunch of research. Now, a couple of other people have talked about research here. Open source intelligence, human intelligence, Google research, for goodness sakes, and various other forums, the ability to gather intelligence on ourselves. So many of us focus inside our own four walls, yet we don't think about what's going on outside. To the earlier conversation that was had, who is going to attack us, who is interested in us, is a conversation that rarely happens until after we've been breached. So we took that same concept and we applied it. We did our research. Once we did our research, we decided to hack something. In this case, we hacked milk robots. Top left-hand side is a dairy farm, bottom right-hand side is a cow inside the dairy farm. Now the wonderful thing about these machines is not only do they milk things, but they also take the chemical composition. They can add chemicals in. They can actually give antibiotics to the cows at the time. If I have access to this machine, not only can I now kill the cow because I'll give it too many antibiotics and I poison it, but I can now poison the milk. And I can disguise that. So now I've messed with your milk. The livestock's connected. The ability now to move cows virtually is no different than we were talking about moving aviation. The ability to mess around with the pedometers, the ability to mess around with livestock in general, the ability to mess with the feeding, the nutrients, and everything else in that cycle. So I've got your milk, I've taken out your cows. This is how we feel so far. There's more coming. Do you know how long it takes to find a picture of a polar bear doing this on the internet? We got your milk. We've taken the milking machine, we've taken the pasteurization system, the IDs, all the other fun things as well. When you take a step back and apply those same concepts to yourselves, we have the same issue. You have the same challenges. How many of you take that step back and research yourselves? Look at the vulnerabilities you have. How many of you have had researchers talk to you and try to help you understand what your vulnerabilities are? What do we do about it? To the earlier questions and to the challenges I ran into, when you stand up to the aviation guys and go, hey, you have a problem, this unfortunately is how they react. This is how we want them to react. Cooperation. I would rather walk into an industry and say, hey, you have a problem, and have them listen. No different than any of us who do research. And the balance, we want to research, we want to do the right thing, yet for the most part we're met with resistance. So to that point, let's go back to the 92%. I couldn't help it. So, now we take out your crops. Wheaties and Cheerios, it's a popular, I don't know, what do you guys have over here for breakfast cereal? Cornflakes. I haven't hacked a cornflake machine. Unilever currently has about 8 Wheaties machines, which are currently still reporting back to me in a server in Norway. Much fun to be had with them. The farm animals. In America, they tend to put millions of chickens in small houses and put them in small cages. The nice thing about it, automated feed systems, automated heating systems, automated cooling systems. PLC controllers that were last updated around about the 1970s. All hackable, all running defaults. You heat up the oven system, you kill the chickens. Now you've got a million dead chickens. And it's the same thing. 6 years ago, Jesse and I hacked tractors. We basically figured out how to drop a smiley face into the assembler code of a set of tractors all around the globe, and it's still sitting there 6 years later after we've told them how to do it. At that point, I can now stop you from producing crops. When you put the seed in the ground, you plant it too deep. You don't know that. The system tells you you're planting it at 2 inches, it plants it at 4 inches. You don't get food. The same architectural attacks apply to the water supply systems. The SCADA plumps, the systems, the PLC controllers, the smart devices that have still got default software running on them. The water treatment plant, the ability to falsify the testing, the ability to inject all sorts of interesting stuff into this. More squirrels. How do we do it? We have a tornado system. It's threat intelligence. It's the ability to look outside of the four walls. You guys have a similar kind of concept over it, both the government-based systems and the civilian ones. At the very least, get out there and find out what's on about you as you're developing new tools. What are your database guys doing? What are the network teams doing? Who is talking about you? Do something rather than waiting until the inevitable happens. So, same thing with heating and lighting. Another thing I'm fairly well known for is sending obscene messages to the space station by making all the traffic lights blink. We had fun doing that. So, at the end of the day, we've taken the milk off, we've killed the cows, we've killed the chickens, we've had some fun, but we've taken all the basics away from you. And we haven't declared war, it's done in a non-violent way. We haven't had to hack anything, well, we've hacked numerous things, but we haven't had to go after critical infrastructure too badly. So this is kind of how we feel about security at this point in time. It's not a pretty state. And to point something else out, we've not had to touch a single one of the Internet of Things shiny toys that we all talk about, let alone talking about advanced persistent bloody threats. Who cares? When you haven't fixed the basic passwords or the basic controlling architecture in your infrastructure, I don't have to do anything other than walk in with a spreadsheet that tells me the basics. So we haven't touched any of that, but we have touched all of that. The thing in the middle, it looks like a little vacuum cleaner or a Dalek if you're an actual Doctor Who fan. It's awesome. There's about half a dozen of those currently running around the middle of Utah and the middle of, I think it was Idaho. And every 6 hours, it stops doing what it's meant to do, which is feeding the cows, and it spends 30 seconds doing a line dance. And then it comes back again and does what it should do. Because we got the code, we added extra. How about geotagging these damn things? It's easy and it's simple. And if I can do that, I can stop it from moving, at which point in time, your livestock doesn't get fed. So what do we do about it? Well, we've taken all the fun stuff away from you. So now let's talk about the 8%. In theory, these are the enlightened bodies, not just yourselves here, but the audience you have to deal with. And the challenge here, again, is communication. We come to you with issues and challenges, we get lawyers. We talk to organizations to the point of aviation security. We tried to address it with the airlines and some of the industries back in 2012, 2013, 2014, and we got rebuffed. We talk to the executives who don't care. And this is kind of how we feel. We bring you our problems and you sit there and go, we're perfectly okay. The audit that we had says we're fine. We got the check in the box. Unfortunately, this is how it really looks. The CEOs and CFOs, for the most part, really don't care unless they've been breached. The accountants, same thing. Security costs money. How do we change that mentality? The lawyers really don't give a flying fudge bar. They get paid either way. The doctors, that's a very blunt statement. I'm not sure what the state is over here, but really over in the US, the healthcare system, as nice as I can put it, is a freaking mess. And they have the most interesting data. They don't just have credit cards, they've got social security numbers, histories, data, the whole flipping lot. And I can sell the drugs multiple times over. It's a mess. The officials have too much red tape. Retailers and bankers spend most of their time trying to convince the auditors that they're secure than actually listening to the buggers and fixing the problem. And then we come to us, the security community as a whole. We're on DEF CON 24 this year. For 24 years, we've stood up and gone, we have a problem. Here's how we demonstrate it. Yet nothing's changed. Things have to some degree got better, yet we're losing more and more data, let alone the fact we're generating more and more data. We're losing more and more data. And for the most part, that 92% ignores us. And nothing's really changed. So what do we do? Let me give you one example. The hacker breaks into the company. How dare he do that? He changes your passwords, but he leaves you the access to them. He encrypts your data. How dare he do that again? But he gives you the keys to the system. And then he VLANs your bloody network because you've left it as flat as a sodding pancake. And then he tells you what he's done, and he gets the hell out of there, cleaning up after you. Altruistic hacking. I'd love to see this prosecuted. I don't necessarily want to be the one that actually does get prosecuted for it, but it would be fun to do it because arguably it should be done. Could it be done? Easily. Should it be done? In our minds, yes. Because logic says a secure system, an encrypted system, I'm getting flashed at, is much more secure than leaving the stuff where we have it these days. Logical argument basically says we should fix all these systems. Unfortunately, we're not dealing with logic. So for me, as we're talking about how to break things, we basically are now sitting there at a stage where we say, hey, we're going to stand up on stage and go, you have problems, and we're going to give you a fix, and arguably, we should deploy the damn thing. And here's why, and this is something that hasn't come out yet, so welcome to some new tech that we're dealing with. If you take the human example of a virus and a vaccine, we actually have this running, and our next slide shows it. We've taken the best parts of some of the best viruses and Trojans out there. We've taken the best parts of the obfuscation techniques. We've taken some of the best parts of the update and resilience in the architecture. And we've looked at the problem. In this case, we looked at Africa because we kept on getting attacked by systems over there very, very regularly. We took the whole idea of the virus, we turned it into a vaccine, and then we deployed it. We're sitting running at the moment with about 1.2 to 1.3 million computers in Africa, which are doing nothing more than doing the job that their person who bought it intended. There's no malicious stuff going on with it. It's not used for a denial of service attack. It's not being harvested for any data. It's simply sitting there running a vaccine. It probably still has antivirus, and every now and again somebody thinks to patch the damn thing. Not that those are much use either. We didn't ask anybody to do this. Sure as hell nothing was harmed, and nothing was taken, and nothing was stolen. But they're now no longer being used for abuse. Now, we might have bent a few rules in the process. Sorry. I'm too far away. Yes! So there's the, oh hell, what did he just do? He hacked 1.2 million computers? Yes. But there's no evil overlord intentions on this. There's no backdoors in the code. There's no master plan to take over the world. There's simply a desire to see change, to see systems get better without having to go through the bureaucracy of getting them fixed, which is where we come to this. There are so many embedded systems out there that need fixing, and there are so many bureaucratic organizations that don't want to fix them or don't believe they should be fixed. Personally, fix them and then argue about it afterwards. Because this is one thing I get fed up with. Stop saying how we can't do things, start saying how we solve it. We have to change the approach. We have to basically say who's dealing with us, who's working with it, and where the focus is. Quick squirrel moment. I'm getting yelled at. So, stop saying what's broken. Stop standing up here and saying next year's blue blinky light is going to fix everything, because it's not. And start actually cooperating. Because from my standpoint, I really want to go after the eastern seaboard in the US, and when I do that, I'm going to be sending more rude messages to the space station, but it is simply going to blink fixed by 127001. So, now you can see why I wanted the feds out of the office. All right, one quick last slide. This is fun. For those of us that have to deal with spam all the time, if the NSA is actually intercepting everything, I do wish they'd fix the spam problem. All right, I'm going to hit the second one for 2 seconds. Ronnie, Leron, everybody else, thank you so freaking very much for having me here, inviting me here, and having to actually, on Saturday, get rid of Air Canada and actually get me on British Airways and El Al. So thank you very, very much, guys. Appreciate it. And I apologize for the weirdnesses in the slides. That's probably totally my fault.
Okay, is my mic working? Okay. Okay, Chris. So many things I want to ask you. So many things I have to say.
Do we need
First,
alcohol?
I mean, I think, you know the whole United broke my guitar?
Yes.
And I think you should make your own song, United broke my presentation. I'm pretty sure this was United saying with you.
Knowing my luck, yeah.
Revenge is sweet. Okay, I really have so many things I want to say, but I'll try to narrow it down to one question because we're out of time as it is. I don't know if you're aware, but we have a team, we have an altruistic hacking team here in Israel called the Red Team.
Yes.
I think you're a member of Hackers for Charity, right?
Yes.
So it's very, very similar concepts.
Yep.
That said, we actually draw the line and we say that we don't do anything that is not officially legal, meaning all of our activities are communicated in advance, we get permission to do whatever we do. We never, ever, ever do anything that could be interpreted even as illegal.
Yeah.
Because for us, this is a rule we set because we understand that there's a risk involved with doing things. Now,
Absolutely.
you presented an amazing, amazing project you guys have done in Africa.
Yep.
That I'm not a lawyer, but to my best understanding is 100% illegal.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, just putting it out there. So my question to you is, how do you reconcile the desire to create a significant impact with the associated risk involved with doing what is, you're a criminal. It's illegal actions.
Yep. I think it's a couple of things. So you can take the altruistic hacking approach and probably apply it in certain circumstances. Hacking into a company and trying to fix their problems, unfortunately, is likely to cause more issues.
Right.
Because you'll go there, you'll try and repair the healthcare machine that can't be scanned because the bloody vendor says it's too unstable, at which point you're going to break something. But when you come to look at PLC controllers or SCADA systems or anything else where there's obviously flaws and there's obviously issues, or even the stuff that we did in Africa and a few other places, where nobody's helping, nobody's fixing, nobody's solving, yet those systems are being used every day to run denial of service attacks. The people's data is being harvested on a daily basis. At some point in time, you've either got to take a step back and go, I accept that, which I'm done dealing with, or you have to say, I just want to fix it. It's that desire to say, I want to fix something, and you deal with the consequences. Africa was picked because, in theory, I'm not going to get yelled at by the US, but we'll find out if I try to get back in on Thursday.
I like the fact you said if you try to go back in, not when, if.
No, there's no easy solution, but the problem is standing here and doing nothing isn't the solution either. I mean, we still lose so much bloody data. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's such an industry stealing data from us.
Right.
Therefore, what the hell do we do with it? We've stood up for 20 plus years to argue fixing the problem. At some point in time, you've just got to say, screw it. Take the humans out of the equation and fix the technology.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Thank you. Thank you for this. This was amazing.
Awesome. Thank you
very
very
much for staying, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.